As high rents and house prices push people's homes further and further from cities and towns, commutes get longer and longer, with ever-increasing numbers of car journeys. The aim may be to provide good public transport, but the reality is that far too much money has been spent on roads. So most people in Ireland don't have something like this Luas as an option. And even where public transport is widely available, there is still a high level of car use. Why is it that for so many Irish commuters, the car still feels like the only option? Karen Strayton lives in a Dublin suburb, close to a bus route and within driving distance of the Luas Park and Ride. She and her husband work in the city centre, but the long commute by car is still their preferred option.
We have a bus route, but we have one bus route, and that bus takes about an hour. But the problem for me with the bus is the price. I don't see that it's cost effective.
How much is it now to get from here into Dublin?
So from here on your Leap card, it's €2.65 each way. So for us, for two of us to commute, it would be €50 a week, which is quite a lot when we can rent a parking space for €100 a month. But there's also very little bus lanes available, so the buses are trying to I guess navigate the same piece of road as cyclists, as cars.
In other words, the choice isn't there because the buses are slowed down by the heavy traffic, so people will take the car.
Yeah, I think if we had a more obtainable Metro Luas kind of public transport system, I think people would use it. I think it's proven that if it's cost effective, then people are going to use it. You know, you pass the Green Line at Stephen's Green every day and it's mobbed with people waiting to get on. So I think people are really, really interested in what are the alternatives that exist, because nobody wants to spend 3 hours a day in a car. Like, we don't.
I suspect that a quality bus corridor that made Karen's journey quicker would encourage her to ditch the car. We all know that traffic congestion eases when the schools are closed. Dr. Sarah Rock is a transport and urban design specialist. Out in Dublin's extended suburbs, she shares some insights into how modern transport design in Ireland actually discourages walking or cycling to school.
If we think back to 1986, which is really not that long ago, only 24% of our children were being driven to school. Now that figure is 60%. That is a huge increase. And if you think about the chaos, everybody, whether you have a child in school or not, knows about the chaos of school traffic.
So why is Ireland so extreme in all of this with travel to school?
I think there's really two big factors that are influencing things. The first is this whole area of convenience. When you have such a high percentage of the population that are actually driving on to work, it makes sense to drop your child via car on your way to work, continue on that way. But the second one is a really big one, and that is this whole area of fear of traffic safety. And when we look at this environment, you can understand why parents aren't feeling that it's safe enough for their child to walk or cycle to school. Well, if we look at how this roundabout has been designed, it's designed with one type of mode of transport in mind, and that is those who are driving. But we really need to improve the safety of our streets around us. And in that regards, I think one of the biggest things we can do to cut down on the number of kids being driven to school is actually to make targeted safe routes to school. Other countries have done it. It is entirely achievable and doable, and we can do it too. But it does involve some hard choices, but ultimately it'll be much better in the end for everybody.
Cycle buses have sprung up around the country because parents want their children to be able to cycle to school, and the only way that they can feel safe in rush hour traffic is in a group. One of the newest cycle buses in Ireland is meeting for the daily school run in Limerick City.
I've squeaky brakes. Hi all. So do you like cycling and do you feel safe cycling?
Yeah, it's more fun and it's safer in bigger numbers because like there's buses and trucks. So
Right. So in other words, if you're cycling your own, it wouldn't be fun.
no.
No. And of course, it would be much safer because you've got parents with you.
Yeah.
And how many parents are involved in this?
7 to 10 parents.
7 to 10?
Yeah.
There's only one rule, that there's no overtaking, so that stops the kids kind of racing or jostling for position, and it keeps us all safe. And then we travel as a bus.
And you mentioned that it's faster on a bicycle than the car.
Much faster. I route around 20 minutes faster in the morning cycling, and I go from school to crash to work.
The thing is as well, like one of the biggest reasons for people not cycling is because it's too unsafe. They think they'll fall, they think they'll have an accident, and then like they don't want that to happen. So in the end they drive. So to be fair, it is all on local authorities and the politics, and politicians need to act quickly like for it to be more safe, and the more people will cycle.
And do sometimes cars get quite close to you or go fast?
Sometimes they go in between us. If there's a we were on O'Curry Street the other day and we were cycling in a group, and then one group was slightly ahead and a car went in between us. So yeah, that made us feel very unsafe.
What could be done to make it better for you?
To have segregated cycle lanes.
Segregated cycling lanes?
Yeah.
Crossing the river is a real challenge. So all of these junctions here on the river are kind of traffic spots, and they're hard to cross.
How many bridges?
There's 4 bridges and there's a tunnel out the road. So there's 12 lanes of traffic crossing the river.
Okay.
And not one of them is a cycle lane. So they're all for motorised traffic.
Right.
So it's a problem crossing the river, and that's pretty much why the cycle bus exists. It exists to get people from this side of the city across to that side of the city in a safe manner.
I can see how a large group of cyclists is far more visible than someone on their own, particularly on a grey, wet morning. But wouldn't it be much better if the city had segregated cycle lanes for these kids to get to school? Bus Connects plans to also roll out over 200 kilometres of segregated cycle lanes in Dublin and improve facilities for pedestrians. Early designs included road widening, meaning that trees would be felled and private gardens purchased. Not surprisingly, these plans met with stiff opposition during the first phase of consultation in Dublin.
Grafton Street on a busy day can be a nightmare for pedestrian and driver alike. It's a narrow street and congestion is common.
But making changes in our towns and cities is often met with resistance. I remember demonstrating as a student to have traffic removed from Grafton Street. Shopkeepers were worried that it would reduce their business on the street.
Radical change is clearly required if we're to rid our cities and towns of traffic congestion. But we don't respond well to radical change. Believe it or not, back in the 1970s, when it was proposed to pedestrianise Grafton Street, some people perceived that as being too radical.
The objections to Bus Connects have certainly slowed things down, but there are signs that some communities are willing to make compromises to accommodate the plans. Here in Inchicore, local residents were not happy when the initial proposal included felling a number of mature trees to accommodate segregated cycle and bus lanes. So they got together to propose an alternative.
With the changes that were initially proposed by the Bus Connects, there'd be continuous uninterrupted bus routes, but it would mean widening the road and removing some of these trees.
Oh, right. So what's the proposal now?
The designs that were initially put out showed the area here being widened to facilitate 6 lanes of traffic. So
6 lanes?
6 lanes. So really it's 4 lanes of traffic with 2 cycle lanes.
Right.
So as a community, we got together and we decided that losing the trees would just be a tragedy for our community.
Right. So what is the proposal now? I mean, there's bus lanes on both sides, is there?
Right, there'll be bus lanes on both sides, but the big change that's going to happen is there'll no longer be traffic coming from the Nace Road up Grattan Crescent.
Okay, so it's a one-way system,
It'll be a
only
one-way
coming
system.
this direction.
Exactly.
Okay, great. So this looks like it's going to be approved.
Yes,
Yeah.
I hope so.
During the public consultation phase of Bus Connects, communities get a chance to have their say on the changes to their streets. The Inchicore community's willingness to reduce access by cars here at Grattan Crescent by suggesting it becomes a one-way street will save these great trees and creates more space for public transport and segregated cycling.
Everyone was very excited to see the changes that are made and that the trees will be staying where they are. And so this was something that we could all do to get together and embrace change that's just going to benefit us. Well, we could have a community that's much more friendly for people who are walking, people who are cycling, people who are taking the bus, and that would benefit us all. And people want to take the bus. People want to take a public transport solution that they can rely on. And if buses aren't getting stuck in traffic, then they can rely on the bus to get them into work on time.
And of course, these trees will be saved, and wonderful.
The success or failure of Bus Connects will hinge on how proactively people engage during the public consultation phase. Recent figures prove that Irish people will get out of their cars if a reliable alternative is available. Without major changes, gridlock will continue to worsen.
When it comes to transport, we need radical changes. We need to make an awful lot more space available for people to be able to walk and cycle and to use public transport.
Public consultation is already happening on new public transport planned across the country over the next few years. We all have an opportunity to get involved and have our say.